Coming up on Tech News Today, are app stores worse than the debate around net neutrality? We'll discuss Jimmy Wales' assertion. Also, is Facebook going to buy MySpace? Somebody's going to buy MySpace. It's up for sale. We're going to talk about that as well. And a computer just goes and kicks sand in the trivia mines of Jeopardy. Just pissing all over us. I guess I can't use that. All right, fine.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
Bandwidth for Tech News Today is provided by Cachefly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Tech News Today for Thursday, the 13th of January, 2011. I'm Tom Merritt. Tech News Today is brought to you by Ford, introducing the all-new 2012 Ford Focus Electric with voice-activated sync and My Ford Touch, featuring gas-free power, zero CO2 emissions, and battery management technology that lets you go the distance. Learn more at focuselectricpower.com and by mailroute.info. MailRoute is a secure hosted service that provides enterprise-grade virus and spam filtering to companies of any size. Try it right now, absolutely free at mailroute.info. Welcome to Tech News Today. As I've already mentioned, I'm Tom Merritt. I don't know why I threw that in there.
Mentioned for the first time, I'm Sarah Lane.
And I'm Dr. Kiki.
And I am Jason Howell.
And this is still Tech News Today, where we're all thinking we might just pitch in, you know, a little dollar from Sarah, a couple dollars from Kiki, and buy MySpace.
Yeah, because, I mean, how much do they want?
They can't want very much.
$5.
They laid off 47% of their workforce. How much could it be worth?
Yeah, we'll find out how much it's worth, but they want to sell it.
Yeah, it's no longer a rumor. News Corp is seriously considering hanging a for sale sign on MySpace, as Information Week puts it. They had a meeting with their employees, the ones that are left, and talked about the company's future and says they are assessing a number of possibilities, including a sale, a merger, and a spin-out. The process has just started, and this has been confirmed according to Bloomberg.
A spin-out, like music spin-out, for example. I mean, music seems to be the one thing that MySpace still has that's a powerful commodity that, you know, service like Facebook musicians aren't really using in the same way.
Yeah, I think News Corp's saying they would just spin MySpace out back to being its own company. I don't know if Tom would be in charge again or what would happen, but they would just, they could do a partnership and become joint owners with somebody. They could merge it into Facebook.
So what does Facebook want
from
MySpace? Assuming that, like, hey, maybe Facebook should buy MySpace. Is it because MySpace still kind of has those folks that have held out that Facebook would be interested in? Is Facebook really give a crap?
But Facebook is also getting is acquiring other companies and having and merging with other companies to give it a larger portfolio of things that can offer the people that use the social service. MySpace, Facebook doesn't have the music space yet. So if that's one thing that they want, they could, like you said, potentially take that.
But I mean, like for FriendFeed, for example, I mean, Facebook bought FriendFeed for talent acquisition. Who do they want at MySpace?
Yeah, that was an acquire, as it is much more easily written than said, where you acquire a company in order to get the talent. MySpace, I don't think they'd want the talent. I think they'd want the users.
Yep.
And let's be clear, there's no news that Facebook is interested in buying MySpace. We're just speculating.
It's just the
but we're just wondering
company.
who else would be interested in buying MySpace at this point.
Google, AOL.
Google needs a social strategy,
Yahoo.
so they could do it. Yahoo needs
Yahoo buying MySpace.
Yahoo's got problems.
Oh my God.
Yahoo's not going to buy MySpace.
I'm putting out.
They're getting rid of companies right now. They're not buying
true.
companies.
Right. AOL isn't.
AOL
they're trying to trim down too.
They're trying to trim down,
not
but
impossible.
Yeah, I don't think it's impossible. They're trying to trim down, but at the same time add more content.
Right.
And so music is content, and that could be one.
AOL's kind of, they're trying to go the hip route, it seems.
And that would be a good, and you could get MySpace at a bargain, which is why I think an investment firm is going to buy MySpace. I think this is what has happened to other big brand, low value properties. I'm thinking specifically of Ziff Davis back in the day. It was sold off as when they divided up Ziff Davis into ZDTV and Key 3 Media that ran Comdex, and just they sold off parts to CNET. They sold part to Paul Allen, and they spun out Ziff Davis magazines separately, and it was held by investment banks for years because they got it at a bargain. And then eventually split it up, and Ziff Davis Media was sold back to a publishing company eventually. So I kind of think that's the path here. Is somebody says MySpace is too huge of a brand not to be valuable, I'll buy it and try to hold it for a while until I can figure out how to turn it into something, flip it.
What
it's
about
basically
one
a
of the record
fixer-upper.
labels?
That's a really good idea. That's possible.
Some of those guys have got some disposable cash.
Yeah, and they're all trying to figure out their online strategies, too.
Mm-hmm. And everyone in this room is like, MySpace, well, they still have the music. I mean, I'm not going to MySpace regularly, but I know that they have that for bands.
That seems to be the biggest part of it. And with MySpace, if you get rid of the users, what is left? If the users go elsewhere, what part of that, of the social technology that they developed, what's useful about that?
Mm-hmm. What are you buying if you're not buying the users? There's
and how can you buy users? I mean, there's no promise that those users are going to stay. They could jump ship any day.
Well, tell that to Comcast. They bought Tech TV for the viewers. So
it's true.
The fact that MySpace still has such a large audience is testament that the people will stick around through a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But yeah, if you're not buying it for the users, I don't know that they have anything terribly valuable in there.
Lots of music.
RIM gives India access to the network, but not to the secure emails. And they're still not sure if this is going to solve their problem. India is one of the countries threatening to block Blackberries from being used in their country unless RIM were to give them a backdoor. RIM has now delivered a solution that enables India's wireless carriers to address their lawful access requirements for BlackBerry Messenger and BlackBerry Internet services, but not BlackBerry Enterprise Server. And this has been the sticking point all along. We talked about this yesterday with Indonesia. BlackBerry Enterprise Server cannot be cracked. It can be cracked theoretically, but it's not. It is encrypted end to end. BlackBerry RIM can't hand over the keys, in other words, to the BlackBerry Enterprise Server.
Okay, well then people have a way to circumvent India paying attention to what they're talking about if they just go through Enterprise Server.
Yeah, if they work with...
Isn't that what they're worried about in the first place? You're
not going to get companies, and the government itself probably, in some cases, use a BlackBerry Enterprise Server. So, this is a double-edged sword. You're also not going to get the security of a BlackBerry Enterprise Server for your government work if you don't allow BlackBerry Enterprise Server to work in your country.
It just seems like India being concerned and wanting to monitor messages, there's such a big loophole that they can't monitor certain types of messages.
Well, and RIM's just trying to say, look, you can't do it. We'll do what we can, but
we can't help you. This is the way our infrastructure is set up.
And they've done this now in several countries, and this is the next step in India. If anybody in India is keeping track of this story, email us tnt@twit.tv. We'd like to know what the feeling on the ground is on there. Maybe you have some insight into what's going on. More rumors about the next iPad losing its home button. Boy Genius reports saying they have an inside source that says the next version of iPad will not have a home button. The iPhone might lose its home button because in iOS 4.3, there's support for 5-finger gestures to take you back to the home.
Baloney. Now, I'm not saying that Apple isn't interested in a home button-free iPad, iPhone experience. They probably are, because it's like as sleek as can be. There is no way that that's going to happen in the next couple of years.
I like this swipe stuff that we're seeing.
I love it as an option.
Yeah, as an option. But in terms of what apps are already in development, already in the store, what's in use on the iPad, iPhone, just getting rid of that button, I think it would be a step back. For a lot of companies that are involved. I think it was on Mac Stories had a good point. It's like, all right, so you take your iPhone out of your pocket and you need to get to an app really quick and you know it's already open and you use your thumb. It's like now without a home button, you would definitely need two hands.
They're not taking the home button away from the iPhone. You can't do a 5-finger gesture on that screen.
I don't even think that's a very
Maybe Sarah could, but I couldn't.
Yeah, with my little midget hands. But I mean, it's also people's... options are good, but the way that people do things cannot just be changed just because it might make something look sleeker.
Although my home button on my iPad has not been working very well, so I would like to have this.
But you don't want to not have a home button. You would want your home button to work better.
What about the restart function or
there's another,
there's some crucial core aspects
there
to
are
the
ways
actual...
around that. I mean, there were tablets we saw at CES that didn't have buttons,
right?
And it was all gestures. So they figured out how to do those hard restarts. Although I would like to know what it's probably just holding for a certain length of time. But
I just don't think it's not wise for Apple to force people to change their habits. I mean,
isn't that what they do all the time? We're going to have a single button mouse. Oh, we're going to have this single, no button on your laptop.
I think Apple thinks very hard about what habits they can force people to change and what is impossible. I mean, think about Gmail having keyboard shortcuts. How many people use those keyboard shortcuts? Certain people do. I don't. If I was forced to only be able to use keyboard shortcuts to use Gmail, it would be very confusing for me. I would probably get the hang of it after a while, but that is not in Apple's best interest.
And that's what Apple banks on when they make those decisions for the consumer. Eventually,
we're taking this way too seriously at this point. Which there is no indication that there's any hardware change that would not have a button in it. iOS 4.3 has the 4- and 5-finger multi-touch because Apple says specifically they want developers to try it out. They wouldn't be planning to launch an iPad in April, which is what we think is going to happen, if they were just now testing the multi-touch. Yeah, the multi-touch gestures.
They don't even know, what the developers have had their hands on this for 2 days now?
Yeah.
They don't even have enough data from the developer community to know if it's even a good idea.
Right.
It just looks cool right now.
MacNote cites reliable sources saying iPad 2 will be available to U.S. buyers the first or second Saturday in April and will remain U.S. exclusive for the first 3 months. There's also another expected release of the CDMA iPhone to Asia coming in April. That would be Japan, South Korea, and China, where they have CDMA networks, which makes sense. They made a CDMA phone. They're going to sell it anywhere that has CDMA support. Also, 16% of AT&T customers plan to switch to Verizon, which at first I thought might be low, but they say that is the highest number who've said they would switch to Verizon of any survey they have conducted up until now. So once it became real, suddenly a bunch more people said, yeah, I think I'm going to switch.
Like, there's a lot that goes into the actual decision of switching, especially if you're locked into a two-year contract and you don't want to pay the fee to get out of it to be able to actually switch over. So it could be a lot of people at this point in time are saying, not yet, but maybe a year from now or even a year and a half from now, if things pan out well on the Verizon network for the iPhone.
Did you check how they phrased the question? Because I think they were asking within a year.
Within a year.
Yeah, not rather than ever.
I think we also shouldn't underestimate people's laziness. I mean,
what people say and what people do
are two different things. My contract is up in January, so this is the most perfect timing in the world for me. What I'll probably do is see if my service gets better once a lot of people in San Francisco jump over to Verizon because they hate AT&T and it's the principle of the thing. Yeah. If I don't have to do anything, my contract with AT&T is not the issue. It's just it's calling capability. That gets better. I'm okay.
Oh, and that brings up a point also of regional percentages. So this 16% is over the entire polling community.
Right.
What about areas like New York City or San Francisco, Silicon
Probably quite
Valley?
higher in certain places.
Yeah, I just wonder if there are certain areas that are.
I think so.
This episode of Tech News Today is brought to you by Ford. They also helped bring us all of our CES coverage last week, so we thank them for that. Ford introduced at CES the all-new 2012 Ford Focus Electric with voice-activated sync and My Ford Touch. If you haven't got a chance to look at the Ford Focus Electric, we took a look at it at the show, and it is worth a look. It doesn't have a gasoline engine. It's powered by a lithium-ion battery with high voltage capacity, higher capacity than the Ford hybrid electric and the plug-in hybrid electric vehicles. That's why it doesn't need a gas engine. It's recharged by plugging it into an electrical outlet. A 120-volt outlet works. 240-volt outlet upgrade can work as well with the electric vehicle supply equipment. Of course, it has regenerative braking, which is pretty typical for these electric cars. So it captures braking energy as you're driving it around, gives it a little extra boost. And it offers a miles per charge that's pretty competitive with other electric vehicles on the market. It's going to provide you enough driving power to get around town, to do your commute, to do the sort of errands that you need to do when you're driving around. And it may even be cheaper. Electricity is often cheaper than gasoline, especially if you charge it at night. So you might want to look into that conversion as well. The all-new 2012 Ford Focus Electric features Sync with My Ford Touch, like you've heard us talk about, responds to voice commands and touch controls for entertainment, climate control, phone and navigation, and battery management. You can find out how your battery's doing just by talking to the car. How you doing? How's your battery doing? Well, let me tell you. So you can easily make calls, play music, manage your battery all through Ford voice-activated Sync and My Ford Touch. Stay connected while keeping your eyes on the road and your hands on the wheel. To learn more, visit focuselectricpower.com, and we thank Ford for their support of Tech News Today and our coverage of CES 2011.
Does anyone else have Roadhouse in their head every time you say that?
Roadhouse?
Yeah, that Doors song. Keep your eyes on the road.
And your hands upon the wheel. Oh, yeah. I
guess I'm the only one.
I thought you were talking about the Patrick Swayze movie. Is it?
Different Roadhouse, but equally cool.
Together.
That's actually what I was thinking of, the Swayze movie. I'm like, I'm not making the connection, Sarah.
Just me.
PC sales weakened in the fourth quarter of 2010, and research houses Gartner and IDC are both saying, you know what? It's probably the freaking iPad.
Oh, it's always the iPad. The iPad's to blame for all PC sales weakened.
Yes.
Yes, it is.
Exactly. Essentially,
how about just tablets generally?
And how about, a weak economy?
That too.
People not buying anything.
the worldwide shipments totaled 93.5 million units in the fourth quarter, which amounted to growth of only 3% over the same period of year. So it did grow. It just grew very slowly. But the really surprising numbers are from HP. They actually declined. They had fewer sales, 1.2% fewer sales than the year before. Acer had 1.8% fewer sales than the year before. And a lot of people think that's because of netbooks. Acer particularly banked heavily on selling netbooks, and folks aren't buying netbooks in nearly the numbers they used to. They're buying tablets instead.
Well, I mean, coming back from CES, the tablet market has exploded officially.
Everybody wants to make a tablet.
Everybody is making tablets.
Exactly.
Some company making, Asus. I was going to say Acer. Asus has the slider. Asus. We still haven't figured that out, have we? I like Asus. It's kind of fun. They've got the slider and it's the transformer.
The Iconia from Acer.
I mean,
another tablet.
Right.
Motorola Zoom.
Playbook, which we've talked about before. The tablet market is growing and probably still will. I mean, if people buy them, then they're going to still keep making creative uses out of tablets. Transformer tablets, that's kind of a fun thing. The tablet that runs Windows and Android. Yeah. Who makes that?
Lenovo. It was a laptop that turned into a tablet and ran Android as a tablet when you pulled it out.
I wonder does that count into a netbook? Not buying a netbook?
That's a whole thing. That's vaporware is what that is, because they say they're selling it in China in Q1 and U.S. later, and they showed it off last year at CES.
Yeah, I remember that from last year.
Yeah,
I'm not.
It's the hybrid that wasn't.
Intel did not have a problem, though. You'd think that they would have been hit by all this, but they posted a 48% rise in quarterly net profits because of their server microprocessors, more than offsetting the weak demand for chips used in personal computers. Now, they're probably selling pretty good chips in the mobile space, but they're not dominant in the mobile space. ARM and NVIDIA's Tegra 2 and others have really taken off in the mobile space. So Intel, very happy that people are still buying servers because it gave them a very good quarter. In fact, their best quarter ever. It just goes to show, who cares about consumer stuff? Enterprise, baby, that's where the money is.
Yeah. Keep the businesses afloat. We'll be all right.
Wikipedia has turned 10.
Happy birthday, Wikipedia.
Congratulations.
And Jimmy Wales gave a speech where he said, hey,
give us more money.
Wikipedia's 10. I need your money. And his head floated above everyone.
A personal appeal from Jimmy Wales.
He was speaking in Bristol, England, celebrating the event. And
not Oz.
As part of his speech, pay no attention to the whales asking you for money. Yeah. As part of the speech, he railed against the concept of app stores on computers and cell phones. Wales claims that stores like the iTunes App Store can become a choke point that is very dangerous, and that the App Store model may be a threat to a diverse and open ecosystem.
I think this is a really interesting argument that he's making. Lots of people have been talking about the future of mobile and the future of computing, and even that the web will always be there, but that apps are really going to be where the future is going. And so this is really interesting to have somebody coming out and saying, hey, why don't we think about what this is going to be doing to the ecosystem for a second? Think about the fact that it's going to be creating a whole bunch of walled gardens that, corporations are going to control, and the openness of the system is going to go away.
For example, an app called Discovery, which actually is it's like a visual representation of Wikipedia. It's a great app. I've got it on my iPad. We've talked about it on iPad today. That is, the Apple Store could yank that for a variety of reasons if they wanted to.
Yeah.
And that would be a way that I could no longer access Wikipedia. So I see what he's getting at. At the same time, I think the apps can also make Wikipedia a lot more interesting, as well as a variety of websites.
Right.
Part of his argument seems to hinge on the idea that, like, oh, well, if you buy an app stores in an ecosystem and then you want to change ecosystems, it doesn't work anymore, whereas on the web, it does.
It's the same.
That's also true if I go from Mac to Windows, though. All the apps that I bought for my Windows machine don't work on OS X, well, unless I virtualize or something like that. So there is a little more wiggle room. But mostly it's like, I got to start over on that stuff. Whereas on the web, website's a website. Doesn't matter what platform I'm using at all. And so I think that's the important thing to take away from what he's saying is, for instance, Comixology does an app for the iPhone store. I'm a huge fan of it. You're probably tired of me if you've listened to most of my podcasts going on and on about how much I love it. They send out, and I gladly sign up for, a weekly update of the new comics that are available to purchase digitally through Comixology. One thing I noticed in the last email I got is DC Comics are only available through our web store and will be coming to iPhone as soon as Apple approves. So here's an example of if I'm just using the web to buy the comics and read them,
all of a sudden
instant access, no problem. But when we've got a choke point, like Jimmy Wales is talking about, I have to wait for Apple to tell me it's okay to buy my Superman comic.
Yeah.
Well, and what if you're not using iOS at all?
Well, there is an Android app.
Oh, there is.
Yeah, at least it's on the way or in beta. But they were basically saying if you're on Apple, if you're on iOS, you're going to have to wait. Because you're going to have to wait for Apple to approve DC Comics to come in.
Can I just say that it seems like Wikipedia has been around for longer than 10 years? 10 years. It's like, when was Wikipedia not around?
I know.
It's hard to remember
when you
those
think back
days.
to 2001, you're like, oh, yeah, I guess we didn't use. In fact, I was like, I don't remember Wikipedia being around in 2001, 2002, but it was young.
I remember doing a little segment about what is Wiki on the screensavers, where I vandalized a page about monkeypox, and that was probably 2003.
One of the earliest instances of wiki vandalism was Sarah
Wikipedia,
Lane.
Don't get it. I know that was the first thing I ever did on Wikipedia. Yeah, so
nice.
But those were the days where you're like, look at what I can do.
Yeah.
You can just change anything.
Yeah.
You can change the web.
Oh, yeah. So, Wikipedia, happy birthday.
We have another one of these Who's Winning the Mobile OS Wars based on our ad impressions story. This one from Millennial Media. TechCrunch reporting that they're saying Android surpassed iOS as the largest smartphone OS on the Millennial network in terms of impression share. Seems like we get one of these a week. But we're starting to see more of them favor Android, at least for now. And we'll see what happens when iPhone on Verizon comes out. But one thing I want to talk about is how do we actually know? Shouldn't there be one trustworthy report? Because we get all these different reports from different ad companies, and while they generally are the same, it's like some say one thing and some say another. The numbers are always different.
Well, it's also, the comm scores and, Alexa rate. It's like there's no one place where you can figure out what the top viewed site was on the internet on a certain day.
Yeah.
You kind of have to take everything with
like
a grain of
sales,
salt, depending
where you can just
on.
say, like, sales is sales.
Right. $1 million.
Yeah.
Now, just so I understand this story, does that mean we're talking about ad impressions? Is that like if I'm on my mobile device and I visit TechCrunch and I see an ad, that counts as an impression?
I think you're talking about in apps and
in-app ad impressions.
I think apps are mobile sites.
Okay.
If it's and it has to be sold through Millennial.
Right.
If you're using an app or visiting a mobile site that isn't signed up with Millennial for mobile ads, then your SOL.
Right. And I'm sure Millennial has a long list of ad clients, but I don't know what they are.
Yeah, and I guess all of these companies are big enough that they make a statistically significant sample. But, so when I saw this, I was like, ooh, Android passes iOS. And then I read, well, on Millennial Media. It's like, okay, well, now I've got to wait for
somebody else,
for five other companies to come out and see if AdMob and all these others back this up.
So it's basically the general story is yet more proof that people are using the Android system in droves.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
And Google under fire today. Police in South Korea say Google broke the country's law when its Street View service captured personal data from unsecured Wi-Fi networks back in August. Google was raided by the Korean Police Department, and they will now, after their investigation, send the case to prosecutors who will decide whether to formally charge Google or not, according
Google
to the Associated Press.
No, we didn't. We did. Maybe we got
it was
this
an
stuff.
accident.
It was an accident. We deleted it all. We don't have it anymore.
Have they deleted?
They've deleted
It's
it
country
when
by country
asked
basis.
to. Ireland said delete it.
Delete it.
The United States, I think, said delete it. Or no, the United Kingdom. The United Kingdom said delete it.
Certain states in the United States are still trying to figure out what they want to do. Well, okay, so let's say South Korea's prosecutors. South Korea says, yes, Google is broke the law. What do they do? Pay them a lot of money?
Yeah, it's going to be a fine.
So.
Exactly. And probably a drop in the bucket for Google, but still.
Right. Yeah. It's the idea of it is, you and I could break the law by accident. Happens all the time. I didn't know I was breaking the law. I'm sorry. I'll never do that again.
I didn't know I was going 85, officer.
That doesn't always work.
Yeah.
That's not always a good defense. Google, you may have to pony up some money to South Korea.
Listen to Sarah.
Yeah, it doesn't look like it's a lot of money either. So the fines right now, according to this article, are $44,800 and $26,900, respectively, for two laws they are said to have broken.
Well, if you're Google, that's nothing.
Drop in the bucket.
Yeah. Also, regulators at the U.S. Department of Justice are mulling a lawsuit against Google over the proposed acquisition of ITA Software, a travel data company behind many of the airline ticket and booking sites. Bloomberg reports that Google basically pulled a fast one where they put a time limit, 30-day time limit, on the Department of Justice and said, look, there's a federal law that says you've got 30 days to rule thumbs up or thumbs down. You either approve the acquisition or you take us to court. And so the DOJ is like, well, we just might take you to court. So I don't know if they're calling Google's bluff or not, but we'll keep an eye on that. Tech News Today also brought to you today by mailroute.info. If you want to stop the spam, try out MailRoute. Whether you have an enterprise of 50,000 people or you're just yourself and you're like, I'm just sick and tired of spam and I'm not going to take it anymore, they can block it for you. MMX records just need to be tweaked a bit to send the mail to MailRoute. They take out the spam, send it back to you. I have tried this. It works. It absolutely works. I've been responding to people who email me at acedetected@brilliant.com for the first time in 10 years because of MailRoute. You get a special TWiT discount, too, by the way. I don't tell anybody, but if you go to mailroute.info instead of mailroute.com, $30 per user per year for single users, and $2 per user per month for 10 users, plus 10% off the lifetime. So just keep that on the down low, mailroute.info, between you and me.
Don't tell anyone.
All right. Time for the news fuse. Google has acquired ebook technologies. You've heard of them. Neither have I. Presumably to beef up its ebook store effort, which launched December 6th. Ebook Technologies has removed all references to what they do from their website. But according to Google's Cache, they used to make a few very old e-reader devices and focused mostly on back-end stuff and publisher deals. And I assume that's what they're going to be doing for Google. A lot of people are like, ooh, Google's going to make an e-reader. That this doesn't look like why they would make an e-reader. Instead, it looks like ebook technologies would help them with publisher deals and back-end ops.
Why remove the references to what they do?
I think they got excited because every page is like, we just got acquired by Google. We're rich. I mean, it doesn't say we're rich, but that's kind of...
That's implied.
That's the subtext.
The underline. Video ad network DBG is finishing production on a 10-part dramatic serial meant for the web. This is no grassroots effort either because it has a network TV budget, which are usually big, and network level stars like Kiefer Sutherland and John Hurt. And at this point, details are still thin, but the show will be called The Confession. And you'll be able to see it in March, and most likely via an initial exclusive run on Hulu.
Big deal. Big name stars going straight to the web. I like it.
I wonder how that'll run on Hulu, how that'll pan out.
I remember some big name stars doing web series before that did not pan out very well.
This is the biggest budget that anyone's tried, so it'll either flop even harder.
What was that Rosario Dawson project?
Yeah.
That's a lot of money that didn't go
it was
very
won some
far.
awards, though.
I think it was called Oops.
Yeah, won some awards, but no eyeballs.
Yes.
Or very few anyway.
Yeah, looks like Nintendo Wii may win the console sales war for December 2010. Whee! Exactly. According to Major Nelson, a.k.a. Larry Haraib, director of programming for Xbox Live, the Xbox 360 was sold out by the end of December, and the company is struggling to keep up with demand for January and February as well. Haraib posted on Twitter that he expects amazing year-over-year growth in 2011.
Of course not. What? Me worried? Worried about apps for Blackberry not running on the playbook because they're two different operating systems? Well, RIM just launched a beta of WebWorks SDK, a collection of tools that lets you package up your web apps with access to the hardware capabilities as apps compatible with both the Playbook and BlackBerry 6 smartphone devices. RIM also released a handful of new SDKs and extended the free Playbook offer for developers to March 15th.
All right, everybody, hold on to your hats and get ready for 4 Gigapalooza in your new PC's RAM slots.
Yeah!
You heard me. Oh, yeah. Market research firm iSupply, with 2 I's, says it expects a huge drop in the selling price of computer memory chips this year, and their definition of huge is 12%, which is enough to expect most default system configs that used to come with 2 gigs of RAM to now come with 4. 4. I'm into it.
Cheap RAM is back, baby.
I love it.
BlackBerry Dakota will be the first BlackBerry to have both a full physical QWERTY keyboard and a 2.8-inch VGA capacitive touchscreen sharing real estate on its front face. The Dakota will pack 4 gigabytes of storage in its 0.4-inch thick body, along with mobile hotspot support. It will run BlackBerry OS 6.1 and work on both quad band as well as 3G networks, and has a magnetometer, accelerometer, and proximity sensor.
Adobe's been working with developers from Microsoft and Google to implement a new browser API that'll make it easier for browser users to get rid of those local shared objects that plague you. LSOs are also known as flash cookies. Yeah, okay, now flash cookies, the things that are impossible to delete. In fact, the new API has already been approved for implementation and is expected to appear in Firefox sometime in the near future.
Trend Micro, you heard of them? Because they sure like to make waves. Speaking to Bloomberg yesterday, Trend Micro chairman Steve Chang said that Android is open source, which means the hacker can also understand the underlying architecture and source code. Apple, he said in the interview, has been very careful about it. It's impossible for certain types of viruses to run on the company's iPhones. And the trolls were released.
I was going to say, if he had posted that on Slashdot in a comment, he would have been modded down as troll.
Right.
Like, that's just the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. Really? A modern-day head of an organization thinks that?
Such a fanboy.
What a fanboy.
Such a fanboy thing
Such
to
an
say.
Apple fanboy. I like how he's careful to say, like, nobody's perfect, though. You still need to buy our security products. Finally, Jeopardy is, we talked about they're going to have a computer named Watson go on in February and take on the biggest names in Jeopardy history, Brad Rutter and Ken Jennings.
People who think they're smart.
And they had a test run this weekend. How did us humans fare, Kiki?
We got our collective asses kicked by a computer.
Why is that surprising?
It's not surprising at all. It turns out in this preliminary match, it wasn't actually, it's not the match that's going to go on air in February. This was a training trial for everyone, I guess. Watson, he was like Mr. Speed Round, getting it in there, and it didn't even look like the human competitors would even be able to get a word in edgewise, but they did. They made some good calls. However,
this was practice.
I mean, when a computer gets a category like "Chicks Dig Me," I mean, how can the computer go wrong?
How can the computer go right? Oh, it was about women in archaeology. Well, it's not what you think.
That's right. Watson is it's a fascinating program, AI program that has been through years of training, and part of the AI training, the language training that the researchers gave to the computer, they don't even understand some aspects of how the computer learned what it knows. There are some aspects of the algorithm that just worked in a way that confused the scientists.
It's like how men and women are confused by each other. Now humans and computers are I just don't get him.
I just don't get that computer.
Men are from Mars, computers are from somewhere. We don't even know where the crap it is. On to the calendar.
Yay! Just want to say happy World Fair Use Day, everyone.
Hey!
Because that's what today is.
Happy World Fair Use Day, everyone.
Today,
Jason, what are you going to edit and put up on YouTube? What are we going to do?
What are you going to edit and put up on YouTube?
I'll just go ahead and do a remix of this show. No, that wouldn't work because
kind of
that'd be fair use.
Yes.
Well, you also work here, so
yeah, exactly.
Take someone else's show.
Take somebody else's stuff and put it on the internet.
All right, I'll do that. Yeah.
I love these days of the year that's supposed to stand for something, but is Fair Use Day like the day that everything is considered fair use?
There's actually a day-long celebration of remix culture and trying to get people aware of what you can actually do.
And
That
which
there
falls
is-
under fair use.
Yeah.
There is legality to remixing, to using other people's content in certain situations.
Yeah. Sony and Japanese broadcasters are going to offer 3D TV a series starting January 19th. The drama called Tokyo Control is going to portray the life of men and women working at the Tokyo Air Traffic Control Center to help aircraft safely navigate the skies over Japan. I love that.
Watch out for the plane.
Planes look great in 3D. What could be a series around planes
I don't care.
flying?
Just put lots of planes in
Traffic
it.
control.
Traffic control.
What has the most planes in it? I don't
There'll
know.
be a
Traffic control?
romance,
Yeah.
but mostly planes.
Reality TV. It's not even a romance. It's reality.
Well, there might
TV.
be air
There
traffic
could be.
control
There
centers,
could be
Kiki.
romance.
Think
Yeah.
of it.
Yeah,
We got to land the plane, and you
That's
got to
a-
stand close together.
It's a hotbed for romance as well, from what I understand. So,
You know,
I think you should write a novel.
I love you. I love you. Another news on the calendar, HP's Todd Bradley all but confirms WebOS tablet for February 9th. That's an event promising even more devices. In a discussion on CNBC that was revolving around WebOS, Bradley was asked, how's HP intending to differentiate itself from the iPad and then improve upon it? To which he quipped, you and I will talk about that on the 9th.
Maybe he just has another interview. That's what Kiki said.
like,
in the
maybe
prep.
he just has
It's like,
something
maybe he's coming
scheduled.
back on CNBC on the 9th. He's like, I don't have time. Let's talk about it on the 9th.
When you come over to my house, you and I are friends outside of the show.
We'll have some
Yeah,
wine. I'll cook a roast. I'll tell you.
Wouldn't it be more fun to assume that on February 9th there's going to be a big WebOS
Actually,
announcement?
there is going to be a
We can
WebOS announcement.
assume.
So
Yeah.
sounds intriguing. Mozilla Firefox 4 is expected this Feb, so in less than a month.
I just
for a month or
I just
so.
found myself switching. I use about 4 different browsers, but I just found myself starting to use Chrome primarily recently, and Firefox 4 might win me back. So I'm looking forward to that.
I'm interested to see, the folks who are working on Firefox all say, wow, this is, it's a big undertaking. So much stuff has been changed and improved upon. I am a pretty much across the board Chrome user at this point, but I've always, Firefox is in my heart still. I was a Firefox user for many years, and if they're great, there's no saying I won't switch back, or at least use it concurrently. Also in the news, website MCV is reporting that insiders have told them that the PSP2 will be announced at a January 27th press conference in Tokyo and could be in stores as early as October of this year.
Wow, new PSP by the end of the year. All right, on to the voicemail. Our caller has a question about Android phone updates. Listen in.
Hey, Tech News crew. I saw the show today talking about the new Vibrant Plus phone on T-Mobile that has 4G. And then I saw a report on Android Spin, or call it a rumor, that Samsung is withholding Froyo from current Vibrant owners, like myself, to increase the value of the new Vibrant 4G. I don't know if this is an internet rumor or if this is true, but I was hoping maybe you could get some word out of Samsung. If it's true, man, I'm not buying another Samsung product again. But I hope not, because I generally like Samsung products. Anyway, wanted to get your take on it. Thanks a lot, and great show.
Yeah, PC World reports that Samsung is blocking an over-the-air update to its Android Vibrant smartphone in order to pump up sales of the Vibrant 4G Plus. It also appears that if existing Vibrant models were upgraded to 2.2, also known as Froyo, it would get a big performance boost. So you're being prevented from that as well. Electronista says that Samsung and T-Mobile are not responding, they're not commenting on this. We haven't heard anything back from them either. So it looks like Samsung is not saying anything. Whether it's done on purpose or not, it's hard to say. But this is one problem with Android, is that unlike iOS, Blackberry, Windows Phone, you don't always get the firmware upgrade.
Why wouldn't Samsung make a statement about this one way or the other?
Well, because they are blocking it in order to pump up sales on the Vibrant 4G Plus. That would be that's the only reason they wouldn't say something, I think.
But I mean, like our anonymous caller, I mean, he's like, if that's what's going on, I'm out of there. I'll never buy Samsung again.
Yeah.
If they're doing that, wouldn't they want to spin it in a way that seemed less nefarious?
Yeah, I would think that
maybe they're working on their spin right now.
At least manipulate us.
The thing is, you could run 2.2 on the
chair
Vibrant.
at us.
Yeah,
something.
Are you joking? You can't tell.
On to the email, tnt@twit.tv. Sarah, you want to lead us off?
Sure. Hey, gang. This is from Lori Scott in Austin, Texas. Hey, gang. Yesterday you mentioned both Sprint and Samsung have announcements next month. How about the first 4G tablet?
Oh, now for Sprint, that makes total sense, because Sprint is saying we're going to do an industry first, and a 4G tablet wouldn't have to be an iPad. It could be, they're getting, I don't know, Motorola Zoom first, although they're not supposed to. Verizon's supposed to get the Zoom, but maybe they're getting some other tablet with 4G.
I wonder if every tablet is going to have a big announcement attached to it.
Oh, it will.
It's announcement season.
This is going to be the big season, the big year for tablet announcements.
On to Todd, who says, regarding H.264 being pulled from Chrome because it isn't open and free, I would be curious to know what other patent-encumbered standards Google will abandon because of its open religion. I read this today from Gino Cerullo. USB, IEEE 1394, also known as FireWire, HDMI, all open standards that are also patent encumbered and require implementers to pay licensing fees to use them. Will Android and Chrome computers stop supporting USB and HDMI? Will Google-powered devices be banned from playing high-def playback to TVs because they don't want to support HDMI HDCP? Will Google come up with their own proprietary connectors to avoid patent-encumbered cable standards? Supposedly, studios are requiring all future Blu-ray players to only output HD through HDMI. Will Android and Blu-ray players and set-top box not support HDMI? This is crazy.
I'm just going to fly away. It is crazy. Too many questions.
Yeah, no, he's overdoing it, but he's pointing out the obvious, which is, Google's reasoning does appear to be a little thin as to why they're dropping H.264. And you passed along, Sarah, a really interesting article from ZDNet.
Yeah, I mean, their theory was it's really because of YouTube and them growing their infrastructure so quickly, especially with the inclusion of HD video on YouTube, where it's like, hey, if we just drop one of the formats that we've got to encode all of this content, all of these cat videos into, it's going to help our infrastructure be built out because we simply can't keep up otherwise.
Yeah. I don't think that makes sense to me because I can't imagine them dropping H.264 from YouTube. But he argued in the article that they would just kind of say, look, nobody's not going to want YouTube to work on their devices. So if we drop H.264, they'll just implement WebM, which I'd like to see that showdown between Google and Apple.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Because YouTube that's a biggie.
Yeah.
If you can't get YouTube, I think people care about that more than they care about Flash.
Well, YouTube was one of the first apps on the iPhone on Gen 1. Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. This is from Allie Smith, longtime listener, first-time emailer. Thanks for the shows. I've really enjoyed listening.
Hi, Allie.
Hi, Allie. Allie says, as you would be aware, Australia is in crisis with the Queensland floods. 75% of the state has been flooded, and many Australian people, homes, businesses, farms, koalas, have been lost. If you would please give a shout out to the Flood Relief Appeal, it would be deeply appreciated. I know you're a technology show, and a few things have been of interest. Our networks jammed and failed. mostly due to water and power damages. And Twitter became a primary method of update for the Queensland Police. Go Twitter. For appeal funds, go to qld.gov.au/floods. Again, thanks for a great show.
Yeah, Allie, I hope everything is good with you and you stay safe. And a big shout out to all the folks in Australia going through a really hard time right now. That URL again, qld.gov.au/floods.
Thanks for the email, Allie.
Yeah.
We're thinking of you guys.
All right, that wraps up our show. Thanks, you guys, for being with us. twit.tv/TNT is the website where you can find our show notes and links to everything we talked about through our wiki. There's a link in there to the wiki that Sarah Lane has not messed with yet.
Not yet. Monkeypox coming for ya.
TNT at twit.tv is the email address. 260 TNT Show is the phone number. Give us a call. We'll see you tomorrow.